going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a fantastic day. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to today's topic, it is a pretty big one. We are going to be going ahead and discussing basically the end of Battlefield 2042. Believe it or not, support is finally coming to a close. As you can see right here, news, Battlefield 2042 Season 7 will be the last season of Battlefield 2042. And they also went ahead and put out a blog post stating, while we've enjoyed and are proud of creating these seasons of additional content for Battlefield 2042, it is now necessary for us to turn from the present to the future. What this ultimately means is that Season 7 will serve as the final season for Battlefield 2042. After Season 7 concludes, we will continue to support the game with new in-game challenges, events, modes, and of course, ongoing maintenance, but we are moving away from delivering official seasons. We know this news may be disappointing. However, as we looked at what the future of the series required, it became clear it was time for us to shift our resources and focus to be fully dedicated to what comes next. As I've mentioned in previous updates, we have an ambitious vision to embrace and unlock the vast potential of the series' class-based squad play and immersive, intense battles. Now, it's a lot of things that I want to go ahead and say here in today's video, because I do have a decent past when it comes to Battlefield 2042. The Battlefield franchise in general, I really was expecting a lot out of this game, and I think a lot of you guys were as well. And when it launched, it was a disaster. It was an absolute disaster. But I will be completely honest, as time has gone on, they have brought it to a much better spot. 110%. I always like to say this because, people still give it a lot of crap, and I understand why people give it crap. But, as a current day Battlefield game to play, just for the time being, to get that Battlefield fix, not too shabby. It's not too shabby, but it is definitely going down in history as the worst Battlefield game ever made. Absolutely. There's not a single game that can come even close to this game. And I know others out there are going to argue Hardline, but I will take Hardline any day of the week over Battlefield 2042. Honestly, I don't really get all the hate towards Hardline. I'll admit, it's not the best Battlefield game. I do prefer games like Battlefield 3 or Battlefield 4. But Hardline, I feel like it was still a pretty fun game. It had an interesting twist, an interesting concept. And, obviously it threw people for a bit of a spin there because it's not necessarily what everybody expects out of a Battlefield game. It was still a fun time in my opinion. But again, I will definitely take Hardline over Battlefield 2042 any day of the week. This game was just, even in its final form, it's just not it. It's not simply it. And that's where this is positive. I know people are going to see this news and think this is a horrible thing. Battlefield 2042 is losing support, and, the Season 7 already wasn't that good to begin with. If you guys watched my review on that topic, you already know my opinions about Season 7. By all means, you could check it out on my YouTube channel. I forget when this season drops, so it's like a few weeks ago. I went ahead and posted that video on this, but regardless, Season 7 is definitely not going to last for anybody whatsoever. That, paired with also Battlefield 2042 losing support with seasons is quite a rough spot. But we want them to move on from this game, right? Like I just said, this is quite literally the worst Battlefield experience I've ever played. And even though it is better now, it is still the worst. It just simply is. And nothing they do to this title will ever change that because the foundation is already set. I wish they could support this game, up until the next title. I think we all wish they could support this game up to the next title so everybody can still enjoy content and have something to do at least, because they did this with Battlefield 5 as well, where they just cut everything and leave the Battlefield community for months on end until, the next title drops, or even a year plus probably, and you got nothing to do. Nothing. The only things to look forward to are, I guess player-driven servers when it comes to Portal now, but I don't know if that's even really populated still. I didn't even care for Portal when I used to play Battlefield 2042 a ton. And also just updates to weapons and things of that sort. But no new maps, I'm assuming, since it's no more seasons. Weapons, maybe. I don't know how they're going to handle this, but, I wish that they could keep things active until the next title drops, but at the end of the day, We want them to hyper-focus on the next game because Battlefield is in such a bad spot that if the next game fails, Battlefield, as we know it, will honestly be in a horrifying spot. I know we say this about Call of Duty time and time and time again, but Battlefield is literally at rock bottom. It can't get worse than this. And if they do potentially mess up the next title, it's GG. It's a GG for Battlefield, the whole franchise. So they have to hyper-focus. They must. They have to completely ditch 2042. And again, this game, the foundation is already set. Doesn't matter what they do to the title, it's never going to become a better Battlefield game or the Battlefield game that the community wants, right? I mean, they even added in, basically the class system again, but it's still not exactly what the community wants. They have to find a middle ground to make people happy. And when you have to do that in a game, it's already chalked. It's already chalked. If the only alternative you could do is find middle grounds for certain things the community wants, then you have to wait until the next title when you can make, from the foundation what the community wants and needs. This is how I am personally looking at it. Both times, Battlefield 5 and Battlefield 2042, they both lost support, and the community had to suffer with no content. And again, we can argue that that is extremely bad for the community. But before with Battlefield 5, it sucked because when they cut off support, they cut it off when they finally started to expand on the war, There's so much to World War II that they didn't touch upon that could have actually been cool and fun and unique. And when they actually started to expand into the Pacific updates and showed more off, they cut it. They literally cut everything, and it hurt. It really sucked, right? Because we finally wanted to see more. And honestly, the gameplay of Battlefield 5, the core foundation was more solid when it came to what Battlefield is compared to 2042, in my opinion. So, I could have seen that being way worse than where we are right now, right? Yes, they're cutting off support. We're going through it again. But what else can they expand on in 2042 besides just adding in new content, right? Just to keep things interesting, chucking things in here, chucking things in there. With Battlefield 5, there was a purpose to the content that they were going to add into the game. There was a reason they're going to add it in. In 2042, there's not really any reason besides keeping people trickling along until they can get a new game out, right? So with that perspective, it helps me relax a bit more, not really give a crap about them actually leaving this game to rot and die. I'm perfectly fine with them moving on and focusing on the core of that game and making sure the next Battlefield game launches, it's solid, it's good. We have some problems behind the scenes with certain developers leaving, but we still have Vince and Pella, so, maybe something good can come out of it, but I don't know. The future, we can't obviously predict it. Anything could be made. I mean, Vince could be trying to make the next big BR out of Battlefield, and it could completely change everything. And, they're claiming that they want to go ahead and focus on the squad-based shooter, aspect of Battlefield, but they could be focusing on it in the wrong mindset. Who knows what the future holds for Battlefield? We don't know this, but I'd much rather them focus on that mindset than the mindset of whatever they had with Battlefield 2042. This was just, it was a Frankenstein of a Battlefield game. It had no identity basically the whole time it was out. And even though it became more playable and it was a good place for Call of Duty players who were annoyed with scope-based matchmaking as well, because it's a lot more casual, I'll tell you guys that much. But when it comes to actually having an identity, when people look back at this game, I don't know what they're going to look back at it for. Let me know down in the comment section what you guys are going to be looking back on Battlefield 2042 for. I don't know, maybe one of the most craziest launches I've ever seen. I don't think I've ever seen that buggy of a mess. I mean, Cyberpunk is up there with it, but holy cow. Battlefield 2042 at launch was just something different. Even looking back to videos on it now, it was actually wild what we put up with and how long we had to put up with it until the game actually became playable. Crazy to think about. But ladies and gentlemen, as always, do me a massive favor, go down in the comment section, leave your opinions down below. What do you guys think about this news? Do you think it's a good thing that they're moving on to the next Battlefield game and leaving this one, to go ahead and die, or do you think it's pretty much a bad thing? And honestly, I shouldn't say, leaving it to die, because they're not. It's going to be updates to make sure that it still performs and things are going smooth, and updates to weapons possibly, so on and so forth. So it's still going to be, active to a certain extent, but future seasons are cut, so don't expect massive content drops, new battle passes. I don't know about weapons, maps, I have no clue. Things are going to be a little iffy here. But you never know. Maybe sometime down the road, they're going to go ahead and implement more portal weapons or classic weapons into the mix to get, spice things. I don't know. I don't know what's in store, but it sounds like the majority of their focus is moving over to the next game, and they're not really going to want to go ahead and prioritize 2042 too much further. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed today's video, leave a like. If you hated it, leave a dislike. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. I post daily here at 8 in the morning Eastern Time. And if you guys are interested in any of my live streams, I pretty much do those daily over on Kick. That goes live around 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can find a link to that channel down in the description of this video. As always, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.